Hello, this is Wyland with the FPV podcast. So I'm reporting back on the finish of the playoffs for DRL. So this is episode 10. 6 pilots competed and 2 will be moving on. I feel like this is going to be a short episode because we really didn't learn anything new. Of the 6 pilots, there were only going to be 3 that I really want to talk about. Other than that, I think this is an episode where it reinforced what we already knew. So let's go ahead and talk about the pilots. McStrawley, we already knew he was a super aggressive pilot. We knew that when he's on, when he has a good day, he's almost unbeatable. But those days are not always there. It's not, he isn't able to do it on a consistent basis, and that's one of the things that he's struggling with. On this day, it seemed like he put everything together, and he was the pole leader for most of the time, and he wrapped up, clinching that first spot fairly easily. The question is, can he do it with the level of competition he's going to be facing in London, where he's going to have to do it against the best pilot, to where there's at least 2 to 3 good pilots that can, challenge him for that first pole position, that first positions, because there are pilots there that are going to be really good at trying to get that first place spot right off the get-go. I do think that he can pose a threat to anybody when he's racing well. The question remains is that can he be consistent through multiple races flying that aggressively? Because the way he flies, he almost has to fly a perfect race every time, and that's hard to do in drone racing. You already see that, not everybody flies the exact same line every single time repeatedly, and then there's always variables that you can't calculate, other people flying stuff that's going to, just be in your way because you took a line a little bit differently. So it'll be interesting to see if he continues his streak. The next person is Wild Willie. Now, Willie, I expected him to actually be in one of the 3 spots. Unfortunately, bad luck, being a little bit too aggressive, taking too many risks, put him into a position where he had to race the second day. We've already seen Willie, he can adapt his strategy. He's very flexible. He's also very good. And he's the type of person that he can actually fly his way to the front. He can challenge the pack and he can stay in the air and he can just, he can manage his risks. But at times he wants too much and he takes an overly aggressive risk and it doesn't always pay off for him. But he did wrap up the second position, and it'd be great to see him race in the finals or the championship. Willie, like I said, I expected him to be there, but he wrapped up that second spot, and it'd be really interesting to see how well he does against the top tier group once again. Third pilot that I want to talk about very quickly is probably Nurk. He's the type of pilot that I expected him to also be competing in the championships, but really it was luck wasn't his way. He got a lot of mid-air hits. He wasn't able to overcome that, and it's just the luck of the draw. There's only so many positions available, and this year he didn't make the cut, and it's sad to see, but that's the way it is in every sport. There's a lot of good teams that don't make it into the playoffs or the championships, and that's just how it is. He's going to have to compete next year. Hopefully he'll be back stronger with a better strategy, and he can actually do, make it into the playoffs or make it into the championships. One of the things that I talked about in the last episode was that he has those moments of brilliance, and you saw that a few times in this episode, which is episode 10, in which, he picked the right lines, or he knew exactly how he wanted to pass, and, he was just fast. He just couldn't string them together to make it into one of the pole positions or make it into one of the final clinching spots. Unfortunate, but that's just the way the sports go. I find it interesting that the two European rookies made it into the championships. So it's really nice, right, to have like 2 of the Europeans that were in this year actually make it all the way into the championship. So it is, a world championship because you have other countries being represented. Probably not enough still. You probably still need more pilots from other countries being represented, especially China, Korea. You would expect to have, 1 or 2 pilots from there too of the 16. So hopefully representation next year will be a little bit better, but we still got to finish up this year first. So I'm kind of excited to see how, they film the championship and how it all plays out, and what we see in the championship, because obviously everything is built up for this moment to show it to the audience, that's saying that you should pay attention to the championship, you should want to cheer for the pilots that you want to win. It remains to be seen if the spectacle of the World Championship is going to be as good as some of the episodes. I'm not saying all the episodes were good, but you would hope that the championship episodes are spectacular and great, because it's like, I watch football, right? So the Super Bowl is always the biggest spectacle. So we expect to see the championship to be the biggest episode in terms of grandeur, in terms of how it's highlighted, in terms of the racing. So hopefully we see that in the next upcoming episodes when they show the championships. So let's go ahead and move on to the episode itself. So one of the things that I feel is that this episode is trying to artificially manufacture drama. In other words, is the episode really even needed? Because what's going on is they picked 3 from group 1, 3 from group 2. They could have just as easily picked 4 from group 1, 4 from group 2, and just split that type of format over the cross of 2 days. Group 1, day 1, group 2, day 2. But the way that they did it was they made 6 pilots fly in group 2, and that it felt like an awkward situation for the pilots. It felt like the pilots were just so stressed out, they weren't even enjoying themselves, and you can kind of see that in some of the people's faces. I don't know if it caused an environment, because you're a professional, right? If you're a professional, these type of high stress situations, you expect them, you have to excel at them. That's what it means to be a professional. There's always going to be situations like this in which you need to excel at if you want to consider yourself a professional. It's just that for this particular event, the way that it was held and the format that was very unique for this situation, it felt very artificial, and it didn't really feel entertaining, because you're taking the bottom pilots and then trying to make an entire day's worth of racing. They should have had it to where it was the top pilots and they gained something special in the playoffs, maybe, or in the championship. Sorry, this is the playoffs. I just felt that it was an unneeded episode that caused artificial drama. It was still entertaining to watch because the racing still ended up being somewhat good, but you were really essentially watching 2 to 3 pilots battle it out for the last 2 positions. Unfortunately, the remaining 3, they just weren't competitive. So again, it wasn't like the racing was spectacular and there was a lot of good drama to go with it. It just felt like a lot of excessive pressure for making the pilots go through a second day to see who will get the last 2 spots. That's just, my opinion. Maybe some people like this type of format in which, it extended the chances of the bottom 6 pilots to, another day so that they had another chance. I don't know. It just felt artificial to me, but I guarantee you there's some people that really like this format and they might continue. I personally hope that in 2018 they replace this format with something else for the playoffs. Something that's, I don't know, a little bit more fun and enjoyable for all of the pilots, because what you saw throughout all of the episodes was all of the pilots, they were very happy to be there. They shared information, but you just didn't quite see that. You saw pilots that were kind of stressed out and just, they just weren't their bubbly selves, which, I don't know, in the playoffs, maybe it should be that way. Maybe I just have it wrong, but it's just my opinion on this, and that's my takeaway for this episode. Anyways, that's all I got. Short episode. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the series, and I will catch you next time.